everybody. My name is Julia. Some people just call me Juju or Julia Beth down here in the South. I am a widow. And if you're watching this video today, number one, this is the first video I'm making. But number two, you're probably not in a really good place and looking for some answers. I've been a widow for 11 years. And I'm also a licensed mental health care provider. So I think a lot of people thought that I would just be able to know how to handle issues when they hit you in the face, traumas, different things that arise, but we don't. We're just as vulnerable and as hurt and shocked as everybody else. But I have learned to get through this journey, which is no fun for anybody. I hate the word widow. So I'm going to tell you some things. And if it helps anybody, then I've done a good thing today. And if it's not, then don't tune back in. But while you're here, if you'll just pounce on that like button, subscribe, leave a comment if you would like, that's going to help me get my channel started. And there's some people who probably need to go to therapy, but you know what? You can't put one foot in front of the other to even get out the door and do it. Some days you can't even take a shower. Some days you don't care if you eat. I'm going to go over all of the many different things that I went through, and if it can help you, good, because that's what I'm here to do. Okay, short story. My husband and I were married when we were in our 30s. We had our child the next year. Before he was 1 year old, my husband, Chili, could not breathe well. He kept going through flu-like symptoms. I'm going to cut it short. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness. We thought he only had months to live. Duke Medical, by the grace of God, gave us 10 more years at least added on to what we thought, and they did. I've been a widow this year for 11 years, and it still feels like yesterday. It does. We knew that my husband was going to pass. So one of the graces that we had with that was we were able to talk about it, and we did. And with our children, they always knew that there was going to be a day we would lose Daddy. They got used to him being in and out of the hospital. I tried not to be scared in front of them because they would feel what I feel, and I got very good at that. I got very good at reversing the role. He was our major provider, but then when he became disabled, I became the main provider in the family, and that's not always easy for everybody, but we were able to do that. I did try to keep our life as normal as possible for the children, and overall we did a good job. The last years got rough just because I knew they were our last years. So my children were teenagers when they lost their father. One is in his 30s, and I have a daughter that will be turning 30, and I can tell you the day that you lose a parent is one of the defining moments that a child can have. I think the pain worse than losing a spouse is losing a child, and I cannot begin to imagine that. My husband's mother was still living when he passed away, and I did tell her, I hurt in an undescribable way. I can't imagine what you're going through. So when we are married, or when we have a partner, or we're in that long-term relationship, we do have conversations sometimes. I remember saying before he knew, he said, Lord, I hope that I die before you do, because I can't imagine my life without you. Y'all probably said those kind of things. So we lost him. He did pass. And even though I knew that it was going to happen, and I thought I could be prepared, because before this, I lost my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, some good friends. I've been through death. I'm from a big family. I was not ready. I was not ready. I'm still not ready. But I know in my heart that he took an earlier flight. I'm a faithful spiritual person, and I feel like in my heart that we will be reunited one day on the other side. That may not be your belief, and that's okay. You do what works for you, but it is what works for me. I feel like I do get signs from him. I talk to him when I'm driving. My children, we talk. We didn't take his things out of the house the next day. There's still evidence that he's here. We have gone through things and put them in places, but you know, some people have to move everything. I get that, but some people don't. So we didn't. Okay, so he passed. I remember my sister bringing me back home from Duke Medical to this part of North Carolina. I don't remember a whole lot after that. The next few days I had to get my son home from college, and my daughter was here waiting, and that's all I wanted to do was be with my children. I know that some other family came. I don't remember all of that. I barely remember a service. Um, but what I do remember is after the service coming home on that Sunday, um, my sister said, "Is it okay to leave?" And I was, yes. My son had to go back to school. My daughter had to go back to her life. And I remember everybody leaving. And I sat on the couch that evening, and the quietness of this house, and it became a house. My home was gone. This became a house, and it was empty. The silence was deafening. It was just deafening. And I walked up and down the hall, calling his name and crying. And I'm not sure how, why, when I did that. It's just things that you do. So you do what you have to do, because at that point what I knew is the king and queen of grief were fixing to walk around with me everywhere. And honey, they did. So over the next month or so, I was in the bed a lot. I didn't eat a lot. I didn't think about it. And if I didn't have my dogs to take care of, I probably would not have gotten out of the bed for quite a while. I did have my husband cremated. That may not be what you wanted to do, but it's what he wanted. And I had, his urn in my room, which turns into a joke later. Trust me, there will be days you can laugh. There will be days you can laugh. And if you are watching this as a new widow, or wherever you are in your life, I will tell you this. The worst is over. The worst is over. The passing, if you knew it was going to happen, or if it happened to you as an accident that was unexpected, the worst is over. And now all you can do is put one foot in front of the other and go forward as best you can. And some days that's asking a lot. So one of the things that I had to learn real quick as being a mental health provider, after about a month of just being in the bed, doing good to take a shower or even caring about anything, I said, I've got to get some help. And that was hard for me to accept, because I have been a mental health provider for decades, and I'm always helping others. And I had to reach out to a partner. And when I got the energy to make the phone call, he said, "I've been waiting for you to call." So I did, and I went in. And we had a really good talk, but it was time for some medication because I hadn't slept. I hadn't slept in 12 years. I was on autopilot with a terminally ill husband. We never knew what day anything was going to bring. And so that's the first conversation we had. So I did have to get some medication to sleep, and thank you, Jesus, I took it, and I got sleep. And getting sleep helped me to think clearer. And it does work. It also gave me an appetite and made me eat again. And I had to learn, we're in the South. I did my comfort food eating. Yes, I did. My grits and gravy and biscuits and anything else that was going to be right. And then after a while, I said, okay, what am I going to do now? Well, my doctor told me something that day that has resonated with me, and I've passed it on to other people in providing therapy. Just do 3 things a day, Julia. Just 3 things a day is all you need to do. And it can be little things. It can be something as taking a shower, washing the clothes, washing the dishes. But that's 3 things that you did today. And as you start to do that, your list will grow. And the other thing that I can tell you is, if you hear my puppies, that's one of the things that keeps me going. The other thing that I can tell you to do is get accustomed to grief. This is not an easy fix. It's not going to go away. people are going to come up to you, especially within a year, and say, well, you know, it's been a year. You need to move on. No, you don't. Who came up with that rule? It's been a year. Move on. I don't want to move on. Why do I want to move on? I'm doing good. I'm okay. I'm still here. I've got my kids. I've got my few friends that I have here, and I'm not going to let those decades of life with my soulmate just move on from me. The tears that I cry now are just diamonds. They're diamonds, you know, praising him and the good Lord that I had him for that long. We were married for 23 years. Some people are divorced 2 and 3 times in that amount of time, and I'm not. So I was blessed. I've met people married 40 years. A friend of mine lost her husband after 73 years last year. 73 years with somebody. Wow. The 23 years I had, when he passed over, half of me went with him. It's gone. I did not, and some days I still don't know. Am I married? Am I not married? The word widow I don't like. I do not like the word widow. When I went to see my doctor that day, for whatever reason, I was filling out the information, and it said marital status. And there was a M and a D and a W. When I saw that W, my heart broke. It broke more than it was already broken, and it was shattered, because I said, oh my God, that's what I am now, a widow. There are defining moments that you have through this journey. That was one of mine. One of mine was seeing the big W, and the other was the deafening silence in my home. After I got some sleep, a few weeks, I did start coming out of the house more. I had really not done the things that I usually do. I really wouldn't go to a grocery store. I just kind of went and grabbed something to eat or went off of what I had. But there was a day that I had to go to the grocery store, so I went to the store. I got through the first couple of aisles. Then I saw his favorite barbecue sauce. I broke out into hysterical tears, had to run out into the parking lot, crying, drove myself home. So after I did that, I had to have a talk with myself and say, okay, this is enlightening. This is a new sign. Things are going to happen like this that are going to trigger those memories, and all this flood of emotions and grief and tears are going to come out. And we hold back tears a lot during the day that, you know, we want to cry, but sometimes we don't, because we don't like to hurt. We don't like that. So little triggers are going to happen, and you're going to feel like crying. Well, go ahead and cry. People ask you why you crying, say, hey, I'm just having a bad day. If they keep getting to you, like I have had some people through my life just needle and what's wrong, and you know, sometimes I have just really broke down and said, hey, did I tell you my husband died? He's in a jar on my dresser. Did I tell you? Then they kind of like, oh. So one of the things is when you become a widow, you kind of get a license to say some things, and you don't really have to regret it. So I've used that, and it works good. So one of the first things that I want to tell you is Mr. and Miss Grief are walking behind you pretty much everywhere you go, and that's long term. Now, you've got some choices. You have choices. You can ignore that grief, because like I said, we don't want to hurt. We don't want to hurt. Grief involves going through shock. The shock and trauma of losing your loved one there's no definition for it. You live on another planet. It's an incredible adjustment that I have no instructions for. There's no manual for this. So you go through the shock, and then you may have a bargain with God. God, just bring him back. I'll do anything, just anything. Okay, that's natural. Then you sort of get angry. I cannot believe I only had him for 20 years. I cannot believe he up and died. Spiritually, I said, I believe that we sort of plan our life before we get here, and we all have chores to do. And so my thing was, I think me and my husband are smart people, and I can't believe we agreed to do anything this stupid. Get married, have children, and then him up and leave us. What were we thinking? I don't know what we were thinking, but I still have to come back this day and remind myself. I think me and him both are really smart people, and there's a reason. There's a reason. And he is on the other side. And I'll take my flight whenever it's ready. And we'll be okay. We'll be okay by the grace of the good Lord. We'll be okay. So the anger is there, and you either have to work through it, or let me tell you something, as a therapist, it will work through you. And that's a professional sentence I'm making to you right there. If you don't work through the anger, it will work through you. So you have choices about that anger. You can recognize that being angry is okay. And you can recognize that sometimes lashing out or making poor decisions, the depression, the sadness is part of the anger too. So you can understand that. Why are you so sad? Why are you so angry? Why do you just feel like you can't put one foot in front of the other? It's because it's grief, and it's, guess what? Normal. It's normal for us as humans to go through these kind of things. And even months later, when I got back to work, for some reason at my clinic, the check-in folks, if anybody came in and had lost somebody through death, in whatever mind they were thinking, sent them to me, because, hey, Julia's lost somebody. She's lost a lot of people. She'll be their best therapist. Well, I think I am a good therapist for people who have lost somebody, but that doesn't mean that's what I wanted to do all the time, so we had to work that out. But I did see that by being able to tell them that, hey, guess what? You're not crazy. You're normal. As soon as I said that sentence to a lot of people, they just broke down in a flood of tears that I could tell they had been holding back for a very long time. It's like I gave you you're not crazy. You are not, we don't like to use that term in mental health, but you are not crazy. You're normal. You're going through the things that we go through with a profound loss and trauma. And we have a scale in mental health. It's the GAF scale from 1 to 10, where, after we do some assessments and we were making our notes, we rate on a scale of 10 the severity of the trauma that you've been through. And 10, the number 10 is catastrophic. I've told many a patient and myself, this is your Hurricane Katrina, honey. This is a 10. You're a 10. You are a 10. There have been many, many studies that show it takes up to 10 years to even begin to truly acknowledge the death of a loved one. So these people, it's been a year. What are you going to do? You're going to move on. People, please don't go out fixing up, making dates and throwing people on online dating sites. If you want to talk to somebody and you feel like that person or your family member is a person that can't live alone and has to have somebody, that's an issue. And then there's a person that's lonely. See, there's different ways of looking at this. Some people lose their spouse and are okay being alone. Being alone and being lonely is not the same thing. I'm okay alone. I do have a companion now, and he is also a widow. But like I said, we are mostly more companions than we are anything else, and we are getting through the journey together. So, we can have our jokes, and we talk about each other's loved ones all the time, which is very helpful. So one of the first lessons I do want to tell you is, whenever you can get your mind in a space where you're understanding that you're grieving and that you are 10 on the scale of catastrophe, at least for the first year, don't make any major decisions. It's just not the time. It's not the time. I made some bad decisions because I didn't have anybody come to me and say, don't make any decisions. I bought some things I shouldn't have bought. And I sold them later. But I bought them, and then I was like, why did I do that? Because I didn't use it. And I had to say, which I can say to myself now, I was in a bad place, and it wasn't something I need to do. So You have to, the first thing you have to do is accept that you've got the grief. And are you going to control the grief, or are you going to let the grief control you? I want to encourage you to control the grief. You're still here. Hey, if you're watching this today, you're still here you're still here. And you had the energy to push a button and turn on YouTube and check something out. And like I said, this is my first video. If I get one person to watch it, that's one person, because I'm going to do this and hopefully help people get through. Today, if you take nothing else away, do 3 small things a day and decide what you're going to do with the grief. Mr. and Miss Grief are right behind you. Are you going to welcome them into your home and heart, or are you going to shut that front door and say, I can handle this. Go stand out in my yard. I got a John Deere. I can run over you. Or I got a leaf blower and blow you away. Or I got the hose pipe. I can turn it on and wash you down. Or I can use this and I can learn to reshape, redirect my thoughts and understand that the hurt and the pain that I have is very real. And do you know what? The more you hurt, the more pain you have is just a testament to how much you loved that person that's on the other side right now. Be proud of your tears. Don't ever apologize to anybody if you have a moment and you have to cry for a little bit. You know, don't ever apologize for the love that you had for your loved one and for the grief that you have right now. So understand that the trauma, the anger, is all part of it. The depression, the sadness, you're normal. You will be okay today. And I encourage you to just do one day at a time. You're okay today. Tell yourself that. I'm okay today. I'm okay today. If you're a girly girl, get back out there. Get your girly girl things going on. Go get your nails done or do them yourself. Get your best perfume and cologne. Whatever you need to do. But get out. Do make that trip to the grocery store. Take a big breath before you go in and say, I'm going in here and I'm not going to let anything upset me. Go get what you need to get. Get out. There are things that he used to do for you or she used to do that you need to do yourself now. Pump your gas. You can do it. You'll be all right. Don't let everything that goes wrong become an emotional explosion. That's what I did. If the lawnmower didn't crank, I was on the ground screaming and crying because why did you leave me in this situation? Then I went to YouTube and figured out how to crank a lawnmower and change a flat tire. Fix a leak in my sink, and I did it. That made me feel pretty good too. It's okay to ask for help from others. Please do. They will help. The other thing before we close out today is I did want to tell you another thing about the grocery store trip. When I went to the store, I was going down the aisle and I saw one of my neighbors right at the end, and she saw me and went the other way. And that broke my heart too, but I also understand the reason that she did that is she didn't know what to say to me. A lot of people don't know what to say to you. And I may not know everything to say to you, but I will tell you this. You will be okay today. Learn what you're going to do with the grief. Make that decision. And just remember what I told you. If you don't deal with the grief, it will deal with you. The way you win is you take control of that grief. You're strong and you can do this. Rely on your faith or your higher power, whichever it may be. Reach out to your friends. Don't become isolated. Don't become isolated. It's okay to have some time for a while, the first few weeks or months, whatever you need to do. You will get back out there one day. My prayer for everyone is to get back out there and to get back in a place where you feel good about getting up every day and putting one foot in front of the other. So I hope this has been helpful for you today. There will be other videos to follow. This is probably a lot. But if you are a widow, God be with you. God bless you. The worst is over. Do 3 things today. Do 3 things today. And I'm Julia. I'm the Rogue Widow. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for dropping by the channel. Please don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Help me get going. Thank you.